The impossible trial. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation hummed with anticipation. Representatives from over 300 species filled the vast amphitheater, their diverse bodies and appendages creating a living tapestry of evolutionary paths. At the center of the chamber stood a single human, Captain Maya Reyes of Earth's first deep space vessel, the Horizon. High Arbiter Zorix, a towering arthropod whose translucent exoskeleton shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, raised 4 of his 8 limbs for silence. The universal translators embedded throughout the chamber activated with a soft chime. For 12,000 cycles, the Federation has maintained a singular tradition. Zorix's mandibles clicked as he spoke. All spacefaring species seeking admission must undergo the trials of sentience. These challenges assess adaptability, intelligence, and survival instinct, the core attributes of a species worthy of joining our community. Maya stood confidently, her dark eyes reflecting the chamber's blue lighting. At 38 years old, she had spent most of her life as a wilderness survival expert before joining Earth's space program. Her selection as humanity's representative had been unanimous among Earth's nations. In our history, Zorix continued, no species has completed all 7 trials. Most achieve 2 or 3 before requesting cessation. The record stands at 4 trials, held by the Axrani. He gestured toward a group of amorphous, liquid-like beings who rippled in acknowledgement. A slender avian delegate rose from her seat. Arbiter, I must object. The human comes from a world classified as extreme hostile. Their inclusion poses unacceptable risks to the harmonious balance of our Federation. Maya raised her eyebrows but said nothing. Earth's classification as a death world was still something humans found amusing rather than intimidating. Zorix's appendages flickered with blue light, an expression of dismissal. The purpose of the trials is precisely to determine such compatibility. Delegate Tarai. The protocols will proceed as established. He turned to Maya. Captain Rice, you will face 7 trials, each designed to test the limits of your species' adaptability. You may withdraw at any time without shame. Many have done so when facing their evolutionary limitations. Maya nodded. I understand the parameters. Arbiter, I'm ready to begin. A murmur rippled through the assembly. The human hadn't even asked about the nature of the challenges. The floor beneath Maya's feet glowed, and a circular section descended like an elevator. She maintained her balance effortlessly as it dropped 30 meters into a vast, white-walled chamber. A transparent observation dome allowed the council to watch from above. Trial 1. Environmental Extremes, announced an automated voice. Beginning sequence. The chamber's temperature plummeted without warning. Within seconds, frost formed on surfaces as the environment dropped to -80 degrees Celsius, well below the freezing point of human blood. In the observation dome, delegates leaned forward, expecting the typical response. Immediate system shock followed by the human requesting emergency termination. Maya's breath fogged before her face. She calmly removed her outer uniform jacket, reversed it to reveal a reflective lining, and wrapped it tightly around her torso. From her pockets, she extracted thin thermal gloves and a compact hood. Interesting, she muttered, stomping her feet rhythmically to maintain circulation. Just like that winter training exercise in Antarctica. The observing delegates exchanged glances. Most species underwent extensive genetic engineering before attempting space travel, yet this human appeared to be adapting with only simple tools. Without warning, the chamber shifted. The temperature soared to 140 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cook protein. Steam hissed from the walls as moisture evaporated instantly. Maya immediately shed layers, created a shade cover from her jacket, and retrieved a small device from her boot that expanded into a solar reflector. She positioned it to create a pocket of relatively cooler air, then sat cross-legged, controlling her breathing to minimize water loss. Reminds me of Death Valley survival training, she commented to no one in particular, though the humidity is lower. Environmental Extremes Trial. Completed. the system announced with what almost sounded like surprise. In the observation dome, the delegates erupted in surprise, chittering and buzzing. "Impossible," squeaked Delegate Turai. "No unmodified species has ever completed the temperature extremes." High Arbiter Zorix's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense interest. "Continue to Trial 2. The chamber reconfigured, walls sliding to create a new space. Water began pouring in from hidden vents, quickly rising above Maya's ankles. Trial 2. Resource Scarcity. Beginning Sequence. The water continued rising, eventually reaching Maya's waist. As it did, a panel opened briefly, releasing a small container that floated on the surface. Maya swam to it and found inside basic components, wires, small electronic parts, a crystalline power source, and unfamiliar alien materials. The water level stabilized, but a holographic display appeared, showing oxygen levels in the chamber rapidly depleting. Most species would use the components to create a simple oxygen generator, but the design required expert knowledge of quantum principles that most individuals wouldn't possess. Maya examined the components quickly, then surprised everyone by ignoring them entirely. Instead, she took a deep breath, then dove underwater. The observers watched in confusion as she swam to the bottom of the chamber, located an environmental sensor, and recalibrated it using her personal multi-tool. When she surfaced, the oxygen depletion alert had vanished. "Did she just hack our system?" An amphibious delegate gurgled in disbelief. "Not exactly," Zorix replied, studying the readings. She identified that the atmospheric composition wasn't actually changing. Only the sensor readings were. Rather than solve the presented problem, she identified the actual problem. Resource Scarcity Trial. Completed, the system announced. The water drained rapidly. Maya stood dripping but grinning slightly as the chamber reconfigured again. Trial 3. Hostile Intelligence. Beginning Sequence. The white walls projected a complex alien mathematical system. Equations that shifted and evolved according to rules most species took decades to comprehend. Simultaneously, a holographic alien entity materialized, its form constantly changing, speaking in patterns rather than words. Most species attempted communication through mathematical responses, the conventional approach that took hours of failed attempts to establish even basic understanding. Maya studied the patterns briefly, then did something unexpected. She began moving in a deliberate sequence, using her body to create geometric shapes that mirrored certain aspects of the mathematics on the wall. Within minutes, the alien entity's movements synchronized with hers. "She's communicating through physical mimicry," gasped a gelatinous delegate. "But how did she know the entity perceives through motion patterns?" Maya continued the dance-like communication for several minutes before the entity suddenly vanished and the mathematical displays froze. Hostile Intelligence Trial. Completed. In the observation dome, silence reigned. 3 trials completed in under an hour, unprecedented in Federation history. Zorix's exoskeleton pulsed with excited patterns. "Perhaps we have underestimated the Deathworlders," he murmured. Maya looked up at the observation dome, her expression neutral but her eyes alive with determination. "What's next?" she called. Trial 4. Psychological Resilience, the system announced. Beginning Sequence. The chamber darkened completely. The delegates could still observe through their advanced sensing technology, but Maya stood in perfect darkness. Sound-dampening fields activated, creating absolute silence. Then the gravitational field began fluctuating wildly, stronger than weaker, constantly shifting direction. This trial had broken countless species before. The sensory deprivation combined with gravitational disorientation typically induced panic, as most evolved in stable environments, where such conditions never occurred naturally. Maya immediately dropped to a crouch, spreading her limbs to stabilize herself. She closed her eyes, unnecessary in the darkness but seemingly a psychological technique, and began controlled breathing exercises. As the gravity shifted, she adjusted her position constantly, using minimal movements to maintain balance. Remarkable adaptation, whispered a crystalline delegate. She's using techniques similar to our void meditation, but without any training. Minutes stretched into an hour, and Maya remained focused and calm. Eventually, she began humming a melody, creating her own auditory input to replace the sensory deprivation. Her species evolved on a planet with constantly changing conditions, Zorix observed. Day and night cycles, seasonal variations, gravitational differences across their world's surface. What we consider extreme testing conditions might simply be variations they've adapted to naturally. After 3 hours, the system finally announced, "Psychological resilience trial completed." The lights returned gradually. Maya stood, stretched casually, and looked up expectantly at the observation dome. The council chamber was in chaos. No species had ever completed 4 trials consecutively, much less in a single session. And the human showed no signs of stress or fatigue. "Continue to Trial 5, ordered Zorix, his voice carrying an undertone of excitement that the universal translators couldn't quite capture. Maya smiled faintly, rolling her shoulders as if preparing for a light workout rather than a test that had broken the will of advanced civilizations. "Let's see what else you've got," she said. Deathworlders ascendant. The chamber morphed again, walls dissolving and reforming into a maze-like structure. Embedded within were patches of various substances, some glowing, others seemingly ordinary. Trial 5. Toxic adaptation. Beginning sequence. The ventilation system hummed to life, releasing a colorful mist that began filling the chamber. The mist contained 37 different compounds, none immediately lethal, but all designed to impair cognitive and motor functions within minutes of exposure. Most species either succumbed quickly or used complex filtration technology to survive. Those with advanced bioengineering sometimes developed temporary immunity, always impressive but expected from spacefaring species. Maya's response was startlingly primitive by comparison. She immediately tore strips from her uniform, soaked them in water from her canteen, and covered her nose and mouth. She then moved methodically through the maze, examining the embedded substances with careful attention. At certain patches, she collected samples, creating a crude mixture that she then applied to her makeshift mask. The toxins in the air began breaking down as they passed through this treated barrier. "She's using basic chemistry to neutralize our compounds," a fungoid delegate observed with twitching spores of surprise. "No technology, no genetic adaptations, just knowledge." Maya navigated through the maze with increasing confidence, her movements steady even as the toxic concentration increased to levels that should have incapacitated her. When she reached the center, she located the ventilation controls and adjusted them to disperse the remaining toxins. Toxic adaptation trial completed. The observation dome was unusually quiet now. The delegates watched with a mixture of awe and uneasiness as the human continued to defy their expectations. "She lacks the natural resistances of the Morkai, or the adaptive biology of the Vrel," noted a silicon-based delegate. "Yet she compensates with problem-solving and knowledge application." Zorix's mandibles clicked rhythmically. Intelligence combined with adaptability is a formidable evolutionary path. Continue to Trial 6. The maze dissolved, leaving Maya in an empty chamber. A series of holographic projections activated, showing symbols and patterns from countless cultures across the galaxy. Trial 6. Cognitive integration. Beginning sequence. This challenge tested pattern recognition and cultural adaptation, essentially measuring how quickly a species could integrate into the diverse federation. Most took days to understand even basic aspects of the symbolic languages presented. Maya approached the projections methodically, studying each set of symbols. She began grouping similar patterns together, quickly identifying commonalities between seemingly unrelated systems. Within hours, she had mapped connections between 12 major symbolic languages. "She's created a comparative framework," gasped a telepathic delegate. "That typically takes our linguists years of study." As Maya continued working, she began speaking aloud, testing pronunciations and grammatical structures. By the 5th hour, She was constructing rudimentary sentences in 3 alien languages. Cognitive integration trial. Completed. Maya looked up at the observation dome, a slight smile playing on her lips. Your symbolic languages follow logical patterns based on sensory perception and environmental conditions, she called out. Once you understand the foundational principles, the variations become predictable. Zorix turned to the council. We have witnessed something unprecedented today. The human has completed 6 trials without rest or support. Only the final trial remains, one no species has ever passed. This cannot be permitted to continue, hissed Delegate Turai. If she completes all 7, the power balance within the Federation will shift irrevocably. The protocols are absolute, Zorix responded firmly. We will proceed as established for 12,000 cycles. The chamber transformed one final time, expanding vastly until Maya stood in what appeared to be an endless white void. Trial 7. Existential confrontation. Beginning sequence. This final challenge was not physical but philosophical, a simulation that forced species to confront their deepest evolutionary fears and existential limitations. For aquatic species, it might manifest as endless drought. For hive minds, complete isolation. For immortal species, the concept of finite existence. The chamber's AI scanned Maya's brain patterns, searching for humanity's core vulnerabilities. The white void shimmered, then reformed into Earth, but not the thriving planet Maya knew. This Earth was dying, ravaged by war, climate collapse, and disease. Holographic humans suffered, fought, and perished around her. For several minutes, Maya walked through the simulation, her expression grim but composed. She witnessed the worst possibilities for her species, extinction scenarios that most beings would find unbearable to contemplate for their kind. The council watched intently, expecting her to finally break. Instead, Maya sat down cross-legged in the midst of the apocalyptic simulation and closed her eyes. This isn't real, she said calmly. But even if it were, even if this is a possible future, it doesn't change what we do today. She opened her eyes, looking directly at the observation dome. Humanity has always lived with the knowledge of our mortality, both individual and collective. We've faced extinction-level events throughout our evolution. We don't deny the possibility of failure. We simply refuse to accept it as inevitable. The simulation intensified, presenting increasingly hopeless scenarios. Maya remained centered, occasionally nodding as if in recognition, but never succumbing to despair. After 7 hours, the longest any being had endured this trial, the system finally announced, Existential Confrontation Trial. Completed. All trials concluded. The void disappeared. Maya stood once more in the simple white chamber, looking up at the stunned council. The elevator platform reactivated, raising her back to the main chamber. High Arbiter Zorix approached her, his exoskeleton pulsing with colors never before seen in the council chamber. In 12,000 cycles, no species has completed all 7 trials. The Federation protocols did not even include procedures for this outcome. Maya smiled tiredly. On Earth, we have a saying. Impossible is just a word people use to make themselves feel better when they quit. The council chamber erupted in a cacophony of reactions, some delegates chittering with excitement, others buzzing with alarm, still others falling completely silent in shock. Zorix raised his limbs for order. Captain Maya Rise, you have demonstrated abilities that challenge our understanding of evolutionary potential. Your species developed on a world we classified as uninhabitable for intelligent life. What you call Earth, what we categorized as Deathworld 429. The classification always amused us, Maya admitted. We just call it home. Perhaps that is the difference, Zorix reflected. Your species evolved in conditions that would destroy most others, yet you not only survived but thrived. Where others see impossibility, you see opportunity. In the following weeks, the Federation underwent its most significant transformation since its founding. Human delegates joined the Council, bringing perspectives that challenged 12 millennia of established protocols. Earth was reclassified from extreme hostile to evolutionary crucible, a term created specifically to acknowledge its unique role in producing a species of unprecedented adaptability. Other Deathworld species, previously marginalized in galactic politics, found new respect and inclusion. The trials themselves were redesigned, incorporating the understanding that true intelligence manifested not just in technological advancement, but in adaptability, problem-solving, and psychological resilience. 6 months after Maya's trials, a joint human-alien expedition departed for a previously unexplored region of space, a zone avoided by the Federation for millennia due to its extreme conditions and unpredictable phenomena. On the bridge of the expedition vessel stood Captain Maya Reyes alongside High Arbiter Zorix, now her friend and colleague. As they approached the boundary of known space, Maya turned to the diverse crew, beings from across the galaxy, each bringing unique evolutionary advantages to their shared mission. In the past, the Federation avoided challenges they deemed impossible. She addressed them. But we, humans, and those who evolved in the harshest conditions, we laugh at impossible. We've been shaped by it, strengthened by it, and now, together, we'll redefine it. As the ship crossed the boundary, the crew, human and alien alike, faced the unknown, not with trepidation but with that uniquely Deathworlder trait, eager anticipation of the challenges ahead. Behind them, throughout Federation space, a new era had begun, one where the species who had always failed the test were now teaching others to laugh at impossibility.